So if we had a national security background check requirement or a criminal background check requirement, what would have happened to Donald Trump and any other people related to Epstein going into this election, going into where we are now? How would have all of this been avoided? How would have justice actually moved forward had we simply had a mandatory criminal background check and a mandatory national security check before holding public office? What would it do? So Donald Trump was Epstein's friend, and you had in 2015 the Katie Johnson lawsuit. What would have happened in that sort of situation is like the CIA and the FBI would have verified that down to whatever, and it would have gone over Trump's relationship with Epstein and all the other girls that were saying that Donald Trump was sexually inappropriate with them. Because if you are sexually inappropriate with women or abusive sexually with women or the opposite sex as a soldier or a general, that's part of your background check, because it's potentially you could be bribable. And that means, like, you know, because people could have that information and foreign adversaries might utilize that information against the United States government. And that's one of the reasons why that's one of the areas that a national security background check is done on generals, and that also deals with the criminal aspect. What would have happened with Trump when it came to Katie Johnson is they would have looked at all of that information and determined whether or not any of that information made Donald Trump vulnerable. They would have interviewed each one of the 1,000 or so Epstein girls. They would have gone through all the data in the trial, in the trials that were going on, and determined, is there a threat here? Is there a significant threat? Is Donald Trump potentially criminally liable? They would have also looked at Donald Trump's ongoing issues that he was having with, like, the IRS, with the state of New York, regarding tax fraud, bank fraud, and insurance fraud of his companies, and him, like, trying to play all these games. That would have been checked as well, because those would be bribable areas. And he probably would have failed those things. Even in 2015, 2016, he would have clearly failed them in 2024, because there were already guilty verdicts. And because of these guilty verdicts, he would have never been able to hold public office, because he was in violation, because he was found guilty. That's the importance of having ethics and how it relates to Donald Trump. Now, I know some people are saying, well, you don't like Trump, you hate Trump, blah, 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 blah. No, it's not that I like Trump or hate Trump. It's nothing to deal with that. Having honor and ethics is higher than politics. It's about maintaining that you have this thing called a debating society, right? In order to have a debating society, you have rules that debating society must follow, and that those rules should be about encouraging ethical, honorable people who have passion and verb and energy on all kinds of different topics. And people are on the other side, like you know, are kittens better than puppies? Are puppies better than kittens? You know, both sides will argue that unbelievably intensely. But it's okay. Because if they are honorable and ethical people, and you maintain an honorable and ethical base in which they operate in, which, for example, criminal background checks and national security checks make certain that these people stay within that area, then you are no longer filled with people who are being influenced. I mean, that's why having honor and ethics and building a structure that does that forces the two sides to debate honorably and ethically. We don't have that. We gave that up by a stupid legal theory that came out of the Powell versus McCormick decision, where it literally was all that you need to be able to do to hold public office is be born in the jurisdiction, 25 years, be over the age of 25, and be a citizen. That's not enough. That is not enough. Because you know why? Because rapists, killers, murderers, all the drug dealers, all that stuff, they fit that qualification. But you shouldn't. But you don't want to have drug lords holding office. That's why all 50 states don't allow these people to hold office. But there's this idiotic, stupid, crazy theory that we live under, and that we're continuing to live under, and we choose to continue to live under this, instead of saying quite simply that the 2006 DOJ memo has made it freaking clear. A convicted felon cannot hold public office, period. Because a convicted felon is higher than a misdemeanor. High crimes and misdemeanors, that's the impeachment clause, and therefore enforce that. And it shouldn't even require an impeachment vote. It is literally, you have committed high crimes and misdemeanors, bye-bye, no office for you, that's it. You can run for your office. You can. Because who knows, maybe the convicted felon has some good points that they're trying to bring up. Maybe they're talking about how to improve the rehabilitation of convicted felons or something like that. Whatever ideas that person has. But they can't hold public office, but they should be able to run for office so that they can be on the debate stage with the elected officials and say, these are the 3 or 4 things I really think you should do. They're running around all over the community telling these are the 3 or 4 things I think you should do. And guess what happens? Maybe that sinks in and they go, hey, yeah, that's a good idea. We need to have honor and ethics in government, and the Epstein situation is the perfect example of why it is that we need criminal background checks and national security checks, because if those had happened, we wouldn't be where we are. And I'm not just talking about Trump, I'm talking about any other elected official at any level of government connected to Epstein. You're going to get exposed, but you never would have had to worry about being exposed because it would have been checked. It also would have helped move forward justice for the victims of Epstein, because of those politicians running would have encouraged those cases to move forward and for those politicians to never hold public office. Like, share, subscribe, debate with me. Tell me how not having national security background checks, not having criminal background checks is enabling our society to move forward. That if you think that, that felons should be able to hold public office in D.C., please write below and tell me why they should. So please, let's go forward. Let's discuss. Like, share, and subscribe.